welcome back. And just before we went on that break, you were saying something about the National Population Commission being there to generate data. But if we had the last census in 2006, 10 years after, how are we supposed to plan, for instance, within this decade, that we did not do anything new?
Well, you know, the norm globally is to undertake censuses every 10 years so that the nation can plan. Because in between that 10 years, we usually also undertake surveys. We carry out surveys on education. We had the Nigeria Educational Data Survey that we just had in 2015. In 2013, we had the NDHS, that is the National Demographic Health Survey. So these surveys also would help. But you see, the census is like the ground norm of the data. And then the surveys come on to tell you, okay, this is what has happened here, this is the improvement on it. So this is what should be happening regularly. And with the data, what happens is government will be able to plan ahead, just as the example I was given, that if I say to Lagos State government today, you have 10 children in 1990. So be ready by 1995, they're in primary school. In another 6 years, they're in secondary school. In another 6 or 4 or 5 years, they should be in the university, and like that. You see, the problem of huge population that does not have commensurate infrastructure is what we are going through now. It doesn't put pressure only on jobs. It puts on health, it puts on the economy, it puts on even the judiciary. The judges have their problems as well. Too many cases for them that they cannot even handle. It puts on even our teenage girls. And that's why you would realize that this year's theme is investing in teenage girls, because they are the future. They are the seed of the nation. And if you destroy your seed, you have nothing to harvest tomorrow. And since we have a lot of youth, they are our seeds. And now, because the infrastructures are not commensurate with the rate of growth, we're having all these problems. A nation that does not rely on data will be beating its fist in the air. We cannot have any meaningful development without proper and adequate data. This is a truth.
Okay, Sulaiman, let's look at some of the figures that are out there. If we could have that slide up on the screen. From the United Nations records, live births as at 2015, 7,249,309. Deaths, 2.3 million or thereabout. That is a natural increase in people in 2015, about over 4.8 million. Then migration is just 662,944 people migrating net as a whole. Males. So with this kind of data in 2015, is it just a question of government using data, or even the private sector and the individuals using this amount of data and the kind of population we have?
It's important that government first and foremost show leadership in terms of using data to plan. The private sector, for instance, essentially will come in to take the benefits of what government has done. Like Madam said earlier, if you have so number of births in a particular area and you don't prepare for them to have access to health, access to education when necessary, access to right life values, there's not so much the private sector really is going to do about such a population. They could be more or less a nuisance. So importantly, it's gladdening to know that Nigeria is still within a manageable population size. Our challenge, and this is part of global discourse about population dynamics, is not necessarily that the world population is a headache as much as it's seen. The problem is where are the population centers? Take, for instance, Nigeria. Lagos is a major population center. Lagos State is the tiniest part of Nigeria. So you have a situation whereby, in terms of land mass, but it's the most densely populated part of the country. And this is so because other parts that should be population centers, there are no infrastructures, there are no facilities. You don't plan for people to have wholesome life where they find themselves. So they keep migrating to the urban centers, Lagos, Kano, Port Harcourt, Ibadan, and the rest of it. So that's why you put a lot of pressure on the infrastructure you make in those places. And of course, all the attendant evil side effects of overpopulation. But if you properly plan society, if you properly plan your environment, I'll give you, for instance, the world population will be about 9 billion in maybe the next 25, 30 years. And then, of course, we need much more to feed them. And then there's this other argument that we really may not need 1 extra acre of land to grab for agriculture to feed that population, because, as it were, over 30% of the food we grow globally goes to waste. Take a country like Nigeria, for instance. We have about 80 million hectares of arable land. We are using about, just say, 34 million. If our population were to double, we will still not require, really, with proper planning, to increase our land mass for agriculture by 1 acre. Because while right now, our per hectare yield, for instance, is so abysmal, is so low compared to global standard, compared to the potential that there is. Not only that, what goes to waste, because we don't have the right infrastructure, because we don't add value, we don't process, what goes to waste is almost more than half of what we grow. So Nigeria, for instance, even at our present population, we don't have any business with hunger. We don't have any business with this monoculture economy that we have. But it's because we have not really developed our potential to take advantage of. We have very good agricultural potential, for instance. So this is the way you start to look at population. Recently, the federal government says in this first year, they are going to have hospitals in every senatorial district. Okay, that is stepping it down. But their target should be that in the next 3 years, by the time they are leaving office, there should be no Nigerian, wherever you are, that will be more than 30 minutes away, from a primary health center. It is when you start to do that you're taking development to the people. And by the time you have that consistently for 10 years, pressure on urban centers like Lagos will start to reduce. And then we'll start to take advantage of our population. You look at Lagos, for instance, when it's dry season, you find a lot of migration from north, younger people coming here to look for other means of livelihood, because our agricultural system is rain-fed. So during dry season, most of these guys are out of job. So you see that once the rain starts to come, they are going back. We should, if you invest in irrigation agriculture, if you invest in processing, these young people don't need to be going up and down the country, back and forth. So it's this kind of planning that we need to have in mind for us to take advantage, of our population. Right now, we are not taking advantage.
But is it, 1 second, would we need to create more state and local governments? Because that's what a lot of people will tell you. We're increasing in population, and for us to be able to plan, that's what the politicians say, for us to be able to plan effectively, we need to have more local governments and more states.
To me, that argument could be both ways. Sometimes the smaller you are, the easier to manage. But really, for now, I do not think it's of so much value to us. What is of value to us is what we have now. What are we doing with it? I totally agree with my brother. And I would also give this example to support what he's saying. For example, I find Ambode, governor of Lagos State, doing well. I heard over the news sometimes that he was going to do 200 roads within the local government. But I was uncomfortable. Why? As laudable as that project is, what data is he basing the roads on? Must you do a road from Igondo, where I come from, in Alimosho local government, into Lagos Island? We should look at how many people reside in Igondo. What are their characteristics? Are they farmers? A typical Awori, is he a farmer? Okay, if they are farmers, let us build mechanized farming or all kinds of farming to help them. Give them their own schools, health centers, and let them work within their own people so that they don't come into Lagos and add more to the traffic. So building roads, as good as they are, should be based on data and relevance to where and who you're building it for. This is the essence of data. So if we're able to do all this, if we decide at the end of the day that we now want to break down to more local governments, it will be fine. But there is no point breaking or staying or anything if we're doing nothing. As it is now, every government to me is just beating its fist in the air because we're not making use so much of data. And he did say that